like Ms. Nachtman is present and the witness is back on the stand, I'll probably simply remind you in front of the jury that you're still under oath, just so they know.
Ready, Judge?
We are.
All rise, jury entered.
Jury is present and seated. Everyone else may be seated this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. I hope everyone had a nice lunch. We are going to pick up where we left off. The witness is still under oath. Mr. Terry, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Garman, aside from obviously the photos, and we've gone through how you documented the scene with all those photos, aside from that, what else, do you ever take prints?
Yes.
And explain to the jury, if you can, the process of how you do go about taking prints.
Okay, there's multiple ways that we can obtain fingerprints. Some has to do with either powder, so it's like a physical reaction. We also do chemical reaction type processing. In this case, I did both.
Okay. And of the powder, what areas of the house did you do powdering to see if you could locate any prints?
So in this case, I did the kitchen island, as well as the countertops in the kitchen.
Okay. And were you able to lift any prints?
Yes.
All right. Now, you do not do comparisons of the prints from the kitchen island or anything?
Correct.
Did a question I have for you about the kitchen island. When you dusted for prints, did you discover other things other than prints on the island?
As far as other prints or other...
As far as like prints of things other than people?
Okay, so I did find while I was processing, I processed the whole island and countertop. Not only did I find ridge detail from, say, humans, I also found like cat paws.
Okay. And near the area where those cards were found on the floor, was that the area kind of where you were dusting?
Yeah, it would have been the whole kitchen counter.
Okay. All right. Now, aside from the dusting that you did, you also said you did another test. What was that?
I processed for fingerprints using Amido Black.
Explain to the jury what Amido Black is and how it works to get prints.
Okay, so Amido Black is a protein dye stain that we use to try to enhance any kind of fingerprints that is possibly left in blood.
Okay. And earlier today when I showed the pictures of the wall, there was a picture of what you said you could identify by using the flashlight as what you saw ridge details of print. Is that where you did the Amido Black?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what are marked as State's Exhibits 58A through E. Have you take a look at those. See if you recognize them.
Yes.
Okay, and what are those pictures of?
This is going to be the hallway near the southwest bedroom, that wall that I indicated before.
Okay, and the southwest bedroom, that's the body where the deceased was located, correct?
The bedroom with the deceased, yes.
Okay, and this is the wall next to the doorway that you go in.
Correct.
And you, these are photos of, do these photos fairly and accurately depict what you were looking at that day?
Yes.
And do they also show what you were able to lift using the Amido Black?
I wasn't able to necessarily lift it, but I was able to enhance it.
Enhance it, that's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Judge, move to have State's Exhibits 58A through E admitted into evidence.
No objection.
They'll be admitted.
Now, I'm going to put these up. This is 58A. And obviously, it's hard to tell from these pictures, but at least the marking that you have, hallway near, that's your marking?
Yes, that's going to be my evidence marker number 13, which is going to be the hallway near southwest bedroom.
Okay. And 58B, same thing. The print that you saw was somewhere in this area, is that correct?
Yes, it's going to be close to just above my evidence marker there.
Okay. And without, this is it without, and I'll see if this is a better view of it. You kind of see it here.
Yes, so that is what I saw with, say, my naked eye in a sense. That's where I realized that there was potentially ridge detail on the wall.
Okay, and now when you do Amido Black, so it's not a lift, because it's not like you can peel it off the wall like you do with dust where you pick up the lift, correct?
Correct.
Amido Black just does a reaction, but the reaction may enhance or show the ridge detail.
Right, so the difference between, say, for instance, a lift that when I was discussing processing the kitchen counter, what we do is we use very fine black powder. We take a brush and we process the area of interest. In this case, it would have been the countertop. When I see any kind of ridge detail, then I take fingerprint tape, apply it to the area, lift it, and then place it on a backing card, which is where we put all the identifying information. In this case, because I was looking for blood, because I was leaning towards the fact that this was going to be blood since it was in a pink hue, I decided to do Amido Black. Amido Black, like I said, is a chemical reaction, so it's actually a liquid that we actually spray on.
Okay, now prior to doing that chemical reaction, did you take a swab of that?
Yes.
Okay, and tell me what you did so as not to disrupt the actual ridge detail.
Okay, so because this print was obviously very faint, we could not see it. It wasn't very visible. Sometimes that we see a bloody print that actually has blood on an item. We can kind of determine where to swab because there might be a smudge area that doesn't have ridge detail. And this one, it was kind of difficult because it was so faint to begin with that I swabbed the area that I was hoping to get DNA, however, without disrupting the latent fingerprint.
Okay. Now, after you did that swabbing, the dentist said that that's when you applied the Amido Black.
Correct. So I photographed it with and without scale, using different lighting. I swabbed the area, and then I applied the Amido Black.
Okay, and so 58D, would this be what you see after you apply the Amido Black?
Correct. So this is going to see how it's kind of a darker bluish black color. Well, that's the chemical reaction to the proteins that are in blood. And so once you apply this, what we're looking for is contrast. Everything that we want is contrast. So with the wall being white, we wanted something dark. So I applied Amido Black and hoping to get contrast, and this is what occurred.
Okay, and this again, this is another picture. This is 58E. This is another picture of that same print, correct?
Yeah, it's just with different lighting, yes.
Okay. And I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 32. Explain to the jury the process after you take these photos with Amido Black. What happens to these photos? Where do they go?
Okay, so when I take the photographs, I download them into a system called Veripic, which is what the sheriff's office uses in order to download our photographs. I then send them digitally over to our latent division so that they can examine it.
Okay. And did you do that in this case?
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 32, what is that?
This is going to be my envelope that I would sent over to the Layton Department so that if there was any kind of identification or anything that they can use to actually put the prints in, because like I said, it's digital, so that they make their own hard copy in a sense.
Okay, and can you open it up and look inside?
Yes.
All right, does that appear to be the same print that you took from the pictures we just showed?
Yes.
And does it appear to be pretty much in the same condition other than some writing on the photograph?
Yes.
All right. Judge, move to have State's Exhibit number 32 admitted into evidence.
No objection.
Be admitted.
You go to may I publish?
May.
So this is the card that is then used, I guess, by the fingerprint examiner in order to potentially obtain
Yes.
identification, correct?
Yes, so what happened is that when I took the photograph and I digitally sent them over to the Layton Division, they then print it out on one-to-one, so it's the exact size of a fingerprint, so that they can do a comparison. So this is their printed copy of the photograph that I took on the wall.
All right. As far as the comparison goes, you don't do that. That goes to a different part of the agency.
Correct.
Now, in this particular case, because it was on the wall and you took all these photographs and it was fainted and you described all that, did you do anything else with that print?
Yes.
Okay, what else did you all do?
We actually cut out the wall to obtain the print so that in case the photographs didn't turn out as good as we wanted, that the Layton Division would have an actual item to look at.
All right. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 31. Let's see if you can identify that. Can you identify it?
Yes.
Okay, how do you identify it?
Identify it because not only does it have my barcode and label that I would have created, it also has my evidence tape with my ABN number and date and initials.
All right, can you open it up? Do we have some scissors? I'd like if you could, if you could open that up and just look inside and tell me what you see.
Can you hold the box
Yes,
for me?
absolutely, sure. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
Okay, and is this in fact the cutting from the drywall that you all obtained on that day?
Yes, it is.
And is it in substantially the same condition as it was when you obtained it?
Yes.
All right. Judge, move to have State's Exhibit number 31 admitted into evidence.
You want to take a look at it?
This is the cover of it. It's actually back.
It's in there.
Okay, we can, yeah. Yeah, no.
Right. I'm not going to publish it right now, so. Okay. you have an objection to it?
No objection to the introduction, Judge. I just indicated to Mr. Terry that at a later time, I want to look
Get
at
a
some.
closer look?
And I'm not going to publish it right at this moment,
Okay.
Judge, because there's going to need to be some movement that needs to be
Okay.
done to it, but I just wanted to have it introduced at
All
this
right,
time.
it'll be admitted.
Okay, thank you.
Subject to any inspection by Ms. Holt. Okay.
Now, other than when you obtain prints, what other type of stuff do you do? Do you collect evidence as well?
I collect evidence, yes.
And again, in collecting evidence, is it you that makes the decision as to what to collect, the detective, or do you kind of work together as a team?
It would be a team effort because sometimes if I see something, because I'm more or less investigating the actual item or area, and then also that if the detective gets any kind of additional information that I don't know about, then we would kind of work together to try to accomplish it.
In this particular case, did you collect evidence?
Yes.
And one of the pieces of evidence you collected was that handgun case that was obtained from the master bedroom?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 43 for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
It has my label that I created as well as my evidence tape with identifying marks.
Okay. Does it appear to be basically the way you packaged it on that day?
Yes, except for the fact that there's additional tape on it, yes.
Can you open it up and take a look inside? Does that appear to be the gun case you collected that day?
Yes.
And does it appear to be in substantially the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes.
Judge, move to have State's Exhibit number
Oh, do you want to take a break inside?
43, admitted into evidence.
It's got the book inside of it and all that stuff still.
Let's see if, I mean,
I just like the time that we looked at this, and I don't know if there's anything else like it inside.
well, I have,
Yeah, can you open it up?
yeah, because I have, it has a different item in it. The book is a different one.
Just want to make sure there's nothing. Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
No objection, Judge.
It'll be admitted.
In judgment, publish it.
You may publish that.
Beautiful close-ups. Can you open it for me? And at the time you found this, there was no gun inside?
No.
And the pictures that we saw earlier showed like a book inside it. Is that how it was when you found it?
Yes.
Was there also inside it a gun clip?
A magazine clip,
A
yes.
magazine clip? Showing you, was to mark the State's Exhibit number 44 for identification. Ask you if you can take a look at that and see if you recognize it.
I can only, recognize it based on the label.
Okay, so the label, is that your label?
That is my label that's been reprinted, yes.
Okay. And if you don't mind, can you go ahead and open it?
Okay.
And what's inside it?
So inside it is going to be my packaging with my label, with my evidence tape that has my identifiers on it.
All right, and you recognize that, correct?
Yes.
All right, and if you could just look inside there and...
Okay.
What is it?
It is a magazine clip that was removed from the case in the bedside table.
Does that appear to be the same one you took in?
Yes.
Judge Booth has State's Exhibit number 44 admitted into evidence.
No objection.
It will be admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
And this was an empty clip when you found it?
No.
Okay, what was inside it when you found it?
13 380 auto, 1 a day live rounds.
And that was located in the empty gun case as well?
It was in the master bedroom, this bedside table in the case, yes.
Okay. And also inside that case was a empty ammo box, is that correct?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 45. Ask you if you recognize that envelope.
I recognize the tag that is on the envelope.
Okay. Can you open that envelope and look inside?
Okay.
And do you recognize what's inside there?
Yes.
And what is it?
It is the empty ammo box as well as my original envelope with my identifier marks on it.
And does it appear to be substantially the same condition as when you obtained it on that day?
Yes.
All right, Judge Booth has State's Exhibit 45 admitted into evidence.
No objection.
It'll be admitted.
Move to publish.
You may publish it.
This one I'll publish. And you said you found 13 live rounds inside that one clip, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, aside from those items of evidence that you recovered in the master bedroom, you also impounded other items from the washing machine area, correct?
Yes.
And we saw pictures earlier of a hat. Did you
Yes.
impound that hat as well?
Yes.
It was marked as State Exhibit number 28 for identification. I ask if you recognize it.
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
It has the label that I created as well as my evidence tape with my identifier markings.
Can you go ahead and open it up, please?
Okay?
Do you recognize what's inside?
Yes.
And what is it?
It is the blue and white hat that I removed from the washer that I photographed earlier.
All right, does it appear to be in substantially the same condition?
Just check. Yes.
Judge, move to have State's Exhibit number 28 admitted into evidence.
No objection?
It'll be admitted.
Move to publish, Your Honor.
You may publish.
And there's one other piece of evidence that you recovered that I want to go over with you. You said earlier today, when we were showing pictures of the outside, that someone pointed out to you a live casing. Is that correct? Or a live shell?
It was a live round, correct?
Live
Yes.
round. I don't remember the term. Did you collect that live round at the time?
Yes.
All right. Showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 46 for identification. Ask if you can take a look at that.
Okay.
Do you recognize that?
I recognize the label that I created.
Okay, can you open it up and take a look inside?
Okay.
And do you recognize what it is?
Yes.
And what is it?
It is my original packaging with my label and identifiers as well as the 380 live round.
All right, is this substantially the same conditions when you got it that day?
Yes.
Judge, move at this time to have State's Exhibit number 46 admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection?
It'll be admitted.
Move to publish, Your
You
Honor.
may publish it.
And that's what we saw as marker number 4 in the pictures earlier, correct?
Yes, in the neighbor's front yard, yes.
Now, aside from collecting evidence, as as we've talked about, photographing the scene as well as processing for print. What else do you do when you're there at the scenes?
I also try to obtain DNA.
Okay, and how do you do that? Explain to the jury the process of going about obtaining DNA.
Okay, so we use sterile cotton swabs. So what we do is we obviously wear gloves. We, in order, if the stain is dry, what we do is we apply a droplet or two of distilled water onto a swab. We package that just as the water is, so that can be our control sample of the actual water. So then I use that same water, apply it to the swab, and then swab the area of interest. In this case, try to get blood.
All right. And did you swab some areas in the house?
Yes.
Specifically, I'm going to ask you about 3 particular areas. We saw pictures earlier of the kitchen floor. Did you swab the kitchen floor?
Yes.
And I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 59 for identification. Do you recognize that envelope?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
It has my label that I created as well as my evidence tape with identifier.
All right. And can you open it up and look inside the box? Does that appear to be the swab you collected on that day?
Yes, it's the, because what I do is once I collect the swab, I would then place that in a plain white envelope, and then I place it in this evidence envelope, and it is the, my plain white envelope,
Okay.
which contains a swab.
And what happens to these swabs after you collect them and you put them into evidence? What happens at that point?
So that would be determined up to the detective whether or not to send it to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for analyzing, yeah.
And on your envelope out there, do you see any markings from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement on that particular thing?
Yes.
Okay. And if you don't, Judge, this time I would move to enter as State's Exhibit number 59.
Any objection?
No, sir.
59 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And can you just hold it up to the jury, just kind of show like this, what the envelope looks like? Yes.
So this is a plain white envelope.
And the swab is contained inside that envelope?
Correct.
Right. And it says from the kitchen floor at marker number 1. That would be one of the pictures we showed earlier, correct?
Yes.
Where else did you take, did you also take a swab of the refrigerator? We saw pictures of the refrigerator?
Yes.
Okay. Specifically, at marker number 2, the west side of the refrigerator, did you take a swab from that?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 60 for identification. Ask you if you recognize that envelope.
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
It has my label that I created as well as my evidence tape with my identifiers.
All right. Can you open up and take a look inside?
Okay.
And you recognize what's inside?
Yes.
And what is it?
It is a swab of red substance that I marked as number 2 from the west side of the fridge.
Judge, at this time, move to have State's Exhibit number 60 admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
It will be admitted.
Okay. And this is the envelope you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. And that contains the swab?
Correct.
Did this also contain markings that had been examined at FDLE?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And finally, earlier today, we had talked about the fact that you did a attempted to, or did a swab of where that print was located that we've just been discussing.
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 61 for identification, and ask if you recognize that.
Yes.
And what is that?
That is going to be the red substance that I marked as number 13 from the hallway near the bedroom.
Okay. And can you open up and take a look inside?
Okay.
And does that appear to be the same swab that you collected on that day?
Yes.
The judge moved to have State's Exhibit number, I'm sorry, I forgot it.
16.
61 admitted into evidence.
No objection.
It'll be admitted.
All right. And again, this is the envelope you're referring to.
Correct.
And does it also contain markings that it was examined by Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Yes.
Now, aside from swabs that you collect, and the prints, and the evidence, do you also do what's called a phenolphthalein test?
Yes.
Explain to the jury, if you would, what a phenolphthalein test is.
So a phenolphthalein test is a test that we conduct to try to locate blood. So it's a presumptive test so that we can try to identify whether it's blood or not to continue with our processing.
All right. And if you could, tell the jury what areas you processed with the phenolphthalein test. Explain again one more time. The phenolphthalein test, it responds to chemicals in blood. Is that what it is?
Okay, so it responds to, it has a chemical reaction to the presence of blood. So what happens is that it's actually a color indicating test. So whenever we swab an area, we apply the phenolphthalein to it, it actually has a color reaction.
And if that color reaction comes back a certain color, then you know that it's a blood?
If it comes back as like a pink color, then it shows a positive reaction.
Okay. And what areas did you do this phenolphthalein test? If you need to refer to your report to refresh your recollection, and what were the results?
Yes, because I took multiple, so if I could, I'll just refer to my notes.
Sure.
I did phenolphthalein on the following, and the following were positive. So the ones that I'm going to list are going to be the positive ones. I did the red substance number 1 from the kitchen floor, red substance number 2 from the west side of the refrigerator, red substance number 4 from the kitchen floor near the refrigerator, red substance number 6 from the armrest of the couch in the living room, red substance number 7, which is the south wall of the living room, red substance number 8, which is the living room floor near the recliner chair, red substance number 9, which is unknown substance from the mop bucket, red substance number 10, which is the wicker wood bed frame in the southwest bedroom, red substance number 11, which is the southwest door frame, red substance number 12, which is the hallway bathroom sink faucet, orange sponge from the washer machine that was marked as AF, blue jean pants from the washer machine that was marked as AG. So those were all, when I swabbed them and I performed the phenolphthalein, they all came back positive for the presence of blood.
And all of those were shown in pictures earlier today, correct?
Correct.
All right. You said some tests you tested and did not come back.
Correct. So the following, when I performed the phenolphthalein, it came back as a negative. It's going to be the baseball hat removed from washer, evidence marker EA, the red substance from ceiling in the living room, water from the mop bucket, interior window ledge from the southeast bedroom, and then the wooden chair in the kitchen.
How long in total would you say you were at the crime scene that particular day?
I believe I cleared the scene at approximately 6:30 that evening.
And all the evidence you collect, how do you move it? What do you do with it?
Okay, so what I do is I package everything in paper type items, as you can see, the envelopes, paper bags, so it doesn't have any kind of contamination with mold or anything like that if they're wet. We then transport them in our crime scene trucks We then take them to our crime scene secure location where we can either store them, we package them, process them, and turn them into evidence.
You may have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Judge, this one will pass witness.
All right, cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Garman. How are you? Let me start first with, just to make sure I have a good understanding. When you first were finally allowed to go into the house, once the search warrant was secured, did you do an actual walkthrough through the entire house before you started photographing anything at all?
Yes.
And then you start back at the front of the house and start moving your way through the house? Is that what you did?
Correct. So we always start with it. We always have a flow. We always start from the outside in.
And at the same time that you're taking the photographs, the detective is walking alongside with you so that you can be discussing what it is that perhaps might be photographed or collected at some point. Is that correct?
More or less, yes.
Or swabbed or anything of that sort?
Yes.
Is that correct? And you indicated that there were several other individuals that were out there doing the same thing, but in different locations. So for instance, somebody was doing some things outside, correct?
Yes.
Inside, was there anyone else that was actually photographing or collecting evidence at the same time that you were? And if so, do you recall who it was?
So I was tasked with photographing. I did all the photographing unless there was something very specific that someone else needed to photograph, but I did all the photographing. So I know that I believe Caitlin Hall would have done photographs later on, but that is specific to hers.
And with regard to the photographs that you took of the purse that was on the floor, you recall those photographs?
Yes.
Were you able to, in fact, ascertain through identification that that was the purse of Miriam Dean's?
I didn't, but I believe one of the detectives would have, yes.
And so that purse having belonged to Miriam Dean's, together with the receipt that was taken out that you testified about, correct?
Yes.
That would have confirmed that Miriam Dean's, on that particular day, had been in Jacksonville and had made a purchase. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then, as it relates to what you would have thought was perhaps blood, would you agree with me that the photographs as well as the swabs indicated that the majority of the concentration of blood was in the kitchen area and some of the living room area?
Yes.
And that was borne out, as a matter of fact, throughout the pheno test that you actually conducted, correct?
Yes.
The photograph that you had where you indicated, and it was kind of like the chest of drawers or the dresser in the same room where the window was open.
Okay.
Okay. And you recall there were some, you indicated Unisom type of container?
There were Unison wrappers, so it would have been like around the capillates.
In Unisom, those wrappers actually said that Unisom is a sleep tablet. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you located the gun case that we just looked at just a few moments ago, that was in a nightstand drawer in what bedroom?
That would have been the master bedroom.
And that master bedroom would have been the one that also had, if you recall, looking at the photographs, a picture of Miriam Dean's on her dresser, as a matter of fact, in that room. That
Yes.
was one means by which to ascertain that was the master bedroom. Is that correct?
I named it as a master bedroom because not only that, yes, it was more the ones that were actually, I would say, lived in, but also that it was attached to the bathroom. So it was more of a master bedroom, yes.
And the gun case, obviously we've seen it, it's not a gun case that locks by either combination or by key in any way. Is that correct?
Correct.
And inside that gun case, one of the photographs that was introduced by Mr. Terry under Exhibit 10 what you're saying is that when you open that gun case, there was literally a Stephen King book, paperback type of book, within the case itself, correct?
Yes, along with the other items, yes.
Along with the magazine clip and the box, the empty box of ammo.
Yes.
I think that you indicated that you swabbed the areas that you have discussed with us. Let me ask you this question. Your photographs, although there were 407 photographs, the majority of them being inside the home, that did not photograph in and of itself all of the locations where you saw a red substance that might have been blood.
So are you saying that there was other blood that I did not photograph?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm asking that.
Okay.
And I'm not saying red substances that might have been blood.
I mean, I would photograph anything that I believe to be blood or any kind of evidence. So, I mean, anything that I would be collecting, then yes, I'm photographing.
Okay, so if you're collecting it or if you're swabbing it, you're photographing it.
Yes.
But my question really goes to, were there other areas where you saw what was a red substance that may or may not have been blood that you did not photograph and did not swab?
That, I don't know. I can't, I mean, I don't know if there was more that I didn't photograph or didn't swab.
Judge, I need just one moment.
Certainly.
And can, based on all the photographs that you saw, and based on all the photographs that you took, based on all the swabbings that you did, based on your education and experience, you still cannot say today where Mr. Dees was actually shot at, is that correct?
Shot at on his person or shot at in the
Within what
location?
part of the house?
No.
And did you conduct any type of pheno testing at all whatsoever on the recliner chair?
No, I don't believe so.
And the armrest of the couch that you're talking about in the living room that abuts up to the kitchen itself,
It abuts, yeah, to the kitchen counter,
to
yes.
the kitchen counter. In that area, what you did do was photograph parts of the armrest, is that correct?
Yes.
And then obviously whatever you saw in the kitchen. And did you
Yes.
swab at all the armrest of the couch?
Yes, I believe so.
And the result there was positive?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And you indicated for us that it is the detective that makes the decision of what swabs to actually send to the FDLE for further testing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason that it's sent for further testing to FDLE, why the swabs are, is because the pheno test in and of itself is only a presumptive test, correct?
Correct. It just gives the indication that it could possibly be blood, yes.
That it could possibly be blood.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, the pheno test can also give false positives, is that correct?
Yes.
And for the jury's purposes, as well as mine, tell us what a false positive means.
So a false positive is where if you put any kind of chemical, say for instance we process with something and that it doesn't necessarily come back as blood, that it is actually giving us a false positive saying that yes, it's positive, but it could possibly not be blood.
And the reason for the photographing of the window that was open in the one bedroom, did anybody tell you why they wanted you to photograph that, or is it just because the window was in fact open, whereas the rest of the windows were closed?
For one, that it was open, and also that I had gotten information from a detective about the window.
And that they were directing you to do that, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, now I'd like to approach this time and just show you what's been marked for defendant's identification purposes, number 1, I through K. The ones that I had shown you right before.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you if you would look at those photographs and see, number one, if you believe that you can identify them. And number two, are they a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw on the day that you were taking the photographs?
Yes.
Judge, at this time, I'll move Defense Exhibit 1I through K.
No objection.
They will be admitted.
And Ms. Garman, let me ask you to do this for me. Just look at it real quickly, a little bit closer, just to make sure. I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions about what is actually in the documents on the floor.
Okay.
As it relates to Exhibit 1J, you see there the documentation in terms of from Newsom I, you see that?
Yes.
And do you have a recollection of why, or why you were photographing these documents other than the fact that they were there?
So in this case, a detective was searching the room and had called me over to photograph it just because it was medical paperwork.
And the medical paperwork pertains to Nicole Nachtman, is that correct?
I can't necessarily determine that. I mean, I can't see it on there. It's kind of hard to see on the screen.
Do you recall whether or not the documentation was found, however, in any particular room?
I believe it was in the closet of, I have the, hang on one second. That was going to be from the southeast bedroom, and one of the detectives had found it.
And the southeast bedroom being, again, the room with the open window?
Correct.
And the room that it would have been the impression of everyone that was there seen at that time that probably was the daughter's room?
Yes.
And do you recall, do you have an independent recollection at all that the documents pertain to not necessarily medical per se, but that the documents related to LASIK surgery?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Garman, thank you very much.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, Your Honor.
and by the defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down. You may be excused as a witness at this time.
Thank you.
Now I'll ask the state to call your next witness.
Brandon Douglas.
Brandon Douglas. Mr. Douglas, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon.
You'll come forward to be sworn. Wherever you're comfortable, you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. You'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair. Please watch your step. Go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. The microphone is adjusted.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state and spell your last name for the record?
It's Brandon Douglas, Douglas.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas, are you employed?
Yes, I am.
Where do you work?
The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked there?
With the Sheriff's Office will be 8 years this coming December.
Okay. And in what position were you working with the Sheriff's Office in August of 2015?
As a crime scene investigator.
Okay. And can you tell us briefly, what does a crime scene investigator do?
Our job is essentially to respond to various types of crime scenes. When we respond, we'll document the scene with either photography, video, collect evidence, and process the scene for fingerprints.
And have you received, through your time as a crime scene investigator, training to sort of teach you how to do those various things? Process items, collect fingerprints, that sort of thing?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I want to turn your attention to August 20th of 2015. Do you recall responding to a home on Fensbury Drive on that date?
I do. I think I actually responded on the 21st.
I'm sorry, the 21st. It was. Tell us, if you will, what time did you respond on the 21st?
I arrived on scene, and if I may refer to my report,
If it'll help refresh your memory.
at approximately 3:23 in the morning.
Okay, so about 3 o'clock in the morning, early morning hours of August the 21st.
Correct.
When you arrived on scene, was the scene already taped off and secure?
It was.
Were there other law enforcement officers present?
Yes, there were.
Were there other crime scene technicians also present?
There were.
Beginning the things you've already described, photographing, documenting, collecting evidence.
Correct.
When you arrived on scene, what was your task or what was your role going to be as a crime scene investigator at that scene?
Essentially, I was tasked with doing a diagram of the scene.
Okay? Have you previously done diagrams of other crime scenes?
I have.
Explain to us how that works, how you do a diagram of a scene.
Essentially, we'll obviously measure where we find the evidence items, and then I'll measure the wall, the distance from like a corner of a wall to a window, the width of the window, from that window to the other corner, and essentially go around the entire house doing that.
Okay? And you take measurements as you go.
Yes, I do.
Now, how is it that you determine what area to take measurements of and to put in your crime scene, and perhaps what things to put in your crime scene, furniture or other items that may be in the residence?
Generally, obviously, whatever gets deemed as something we're collecting as an item of evidence, I'll measure that. The furniture, sometimes I'll just include the furniture in my diagram just to kind of give an idea of where certain rooms are, what certain rooms are. But if an item of evidence may be on top of the item of furniture, I'll actually measure in the piece of furniture.
Okay, and then what about if there's other things in the, captured within that diagram, clothing or hats or tools or things like that? How do you mark that in the diagram?
Yeah, if a detective deems, that's an item we're going to collect, it will be included.
Okay. Mr. Douglas, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 51. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and is that, in fact, the diagram that you just described to us that you prepared in this case?
It is.
And I should have clarified, was this diagram of the interior of the residence or the exterior?
This was the interior.
Okay, and is this a fair and accurate depiction of that diagram that you did on August the 21st of 2015?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to move an evidence State's Exhibit 51
No objection.
It'll be admitted.
and ask for permission to publish.
You may publish it.
All right, if you could look at the monitor. Mr. Douglas, okay, and is this in fact the diagram that you created on that date?
It is.
Okay, and for ease of you staying in your seat, I suppose, towards the bottom here, it's not, we see obviously the garage. Is it fair, you have it on here labeled garage, is it fair to say that this sort of swinging door thing here in the middle bottom of the photograph will be the front door to the residence?
Yes, that is the front door.
Everything else, the descriptions that you put, southwest bedroom, southeast bedroom, are those determinations that you discussed with whoever would have been the scene detective at that time?
Correct.
And who was the scene detective?
I believe it was Detective Thomas.
Okay. And in the back left southwest bedroom, it looks like there's a body. Is that the body of the deceased male depicted in the diagram?
Yes, it is.
In addition, and I should clarify, this diagram, is this something that you would have created more formally back at your office?
Yes, it is.
All right. In addition to creating that diagram and taking the measurements for the diagram, what else were you tasked with doing at the scene that day?
I also fingerprinted items in the master bedroom area of the residence.
Okay. And if you could, tell us what process did you use to collect fingerprints in the master bedroom?
Essentially, I just used black fingerprint powder.
Okay. And are there different ways that you can collect fingerprints?
There are.
How did you make a determination to use fingerprint powder in the bedroom?
The black fingerprint powder is, basically the most reliable, especially going out on a scene and processing. There are various chemicals and, other chemical techniques we can do, but they can potentially destroy the residence. Black powder is probably the most convenient and easy to use.
Okay. And the processing that you did in the master bedroom with the black fingerprint powder, is it something you've been trained on how to do?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And when you're processing an item for fingerprints, do you know if you're actually getting any quality prints?
Quality prints, no. But generally, when we're applying the black powder, if any ridge detail develops, we'll lift it. But we don't know whether it's actually, they'll be able to identify it, the late print examiner.
Okay, and do you have any role in attempting to identify any fingerprints?
I do not.
I'm going to show you what's been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 10, specifically 10A. You can take a look there. Do you recognize this to be the master bedroom or leading into the master bedroom where you collected fingerprints?
Yes, it is.
And State's Exhibit 10E, do you recognize the dresser in the photograph?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize that?
That is one of the dressers I fingerprinted.
Okay, off of this sort of white, or maybe beige and brown, long horizontal dresser that we see in the photograph.
Correct.
Did you collect or did you attempt to lift fingerprints from various places on that dresser?
I did.
Mr. Douglas, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 34 for identification. If you could take a look at the item contained in that envelope and let me know if you recognize them.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
These are the fingerprint cards I placed my fingerprint lifts on.
Okay. The fingerprints that you collected from the dresser that we just saw in State's Exhibit 10E?
Correct.
Okay. And other than some additional markings that have been made on these fingerprint cards, are they the same or substantially the same condition as they were when you collected them on August the 21st?
Yes, they are.
Without objection, I'd ask to enter into evidence State's Exhibit 34.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Be admitted.
And Mr. Douglas, and I'm just going to show you a couple of these because there's several different ones here. We see within State's Exhibit 34, the fingerprint, the sort of, I guess, grayish, is this the powder that you've then placed onto this card?
Yes, it is.
And then on the back of each card, there's information about, I guess, where the print was collected from. Is that information that you've personally placed on the card?
It is.
Indicating what portion of the dresser, what area that print was actually lifted from?
Correct. I should actually clarify I put the powder on the dresser, then we take a piece of tape and put it over the lift, and then we pull the tape up and place the tape on the card.
Okay, thank you. And in the photograph that we just saw, we see this long horizontal dresser with like different sections of drawers. Is that what you recall as well?
Yes.
It appears on the back of these cards that you've tried to draw sort of a little representation of that dresser. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's my attempt at drawing the dresser.
Okay, and on that we see kind of little X's here. Is that also your way of trying to indicate where these prints on this side of the card were actually lifted from on that dresser?
Correct.
Is that what we would see on, again, as we continue through on these various cards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Other than collecting these prints on August the 21st, did you collect any other items of evidence at the residence on that day?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Nothing further. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Cross.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, just to make sure that I understand how to read the diagram, okay?
Sure.
All right. So if someone is in this living room area and they want to go to the southwest bedroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could travel from the living room to the southwest bathroom without ever going through the kitchen because there's just a pathway, natural pathway to go there. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
No other questions? Thank you, Judge.
Redirect.
Redirect, Judge.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, sir.
and by the defense?
Yes.
Thank you. You may step down. You may be excused as a witness at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. I'll ask the state to call your next witness.
Jennifer Norman?
Jennifer Norman.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Norman, good afternoon and welcome. You'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. If you'll, thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff around at the ramp that leads up to the witness chair. Please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable.
Hi. Could you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Jennifer Norman, Norman.
Thank you. Ms. Norman, are you currently employed?
I am not.
Okay. I want to turn your attention back to August of 2015. Were you employed at that time?
I was.
In what capacity?
I was a crime scene investigator for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
How long were you employed as a crime scene investigator with the Sheriff's Office for?
With the Sheriff's Office, about 4.5 years.
Did you have experience as a crime scene investigator with another agency?
Yes, I did.
And who was that and when?
Escambia County Sheriff's Office up in Pensacola, and from 2006 to 2013.
Back in August of 2015, did you have an opportunity to respond to a scene located on Fensbury Drive, specifically August the 20th or 21st of 2015?
Yes,
Okay. And on what date did you actually respond to that residence?
the 21st.
Okay. And that was in your capacity as a crime scene investigator.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any involvement at that scene on August the 20th?
No.
In relation to this case that you ultimately responded to that residence on, did you also have an occasion to go to another location?
Yes, I did.
And what location was that?
The medical examiner's office.
Okay. And is that something that as a crime scene investigator you have previously done, go to the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
For what purpose?
To observe the autopsies while the doctor performs them and to collect any evidence and to take pictures.
When you went to the autopsies in this case, on what date were they conducted?
The 21st.
The 21st of August?
Yes.
When you went to the autopsies, was another detective also present?
Yes.
Do you recall what detective that was?
Detective McCarrick.
Do you take any part in the autopsy?
I just take photos of what the doctor points at and then collect the evidence that they provide me.
Okay. So as the doctor is going through the autopsy, are you actively photographing different things that he may be indicating or pointing to?
Correct.
Okay. And is there someone from the medical examiner's office who also takes photographs during that process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then ultimately, at the conclusion of the autopsy, are you responsible for collecting any evidence that may have been obtained from the doctor during the autopsy?
Yes, the medical examiner's office actually collects their samples and stuff, and then anything that they would like to keep as forensic evidence, they package and then is transferred to me.
Okay, and that's all done right there, sort of in your presence during the autopsy?
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk first about the female victim in this case, Miriam Deans. Were you present for her autopsy at the medical examiner's office?
I was.
Was that also conducted on August 21st?
Yes,
During her autopsy, did you take photographs?
I did.
Okay. And did you ultimately collect items of evidence?
I did.
Specifically, did you have an opportunity to collect projectiles that were recovered from Ms. Dean?
I did.
Ms. Norman, I'm showing you what's in packages, State's Exhibit 38A through C, for identification purposes. If you could take a moment to, and you can use the scissors there, to open the packages and look inside and let me know if you recognize the items contained within.
Sorry, I'm just checking the numbers against my report to make sure that they are accurate. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you recognize the items contained in those packages?
Yes, these are the small packages that the medical examiner's office provides to me with their labeling of where these items came from.
Okay, and do those appear to be the projectiles that were recovered from the body of Miriam Gaines?
They're actually still in individual medical examiner's packets inside. Would you like me to open those as well?
Do they appear to be those same packages, what the medical examiner's office gave you when you were present for the autopsy, that you saw them package the projectiles in?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they in the same or substantially the same condition as they were at that time?
Yes, there's additional evidence tape on there, but yes.
Your Honor, this one I have to move into evidence, State Exhibit 38A.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
They'll be admitted.
Okay, and if you could just hold up the individual packages, starting on 38A.
These are the,
Okay, and 38A, State's Exhibit 38A, did you notate in your report, and do you recall what part of the body that came from on Miriam Gaines?
the doctor labeled this as bullet from the retroperitoneal space.
And were you present when that would have been collected and subsequently packaged by the doctor and the medical examiner?
Yes.
Okay. You can place that back in the next item. And State's Exhibit 38. And where did that indicate that that projectile was recovered from on the body of Miriam Gaines?
This one is labeled as bullet from abdomen.
Thank you. And 38C.
And this one is labeled bullet from neck.
Thank you. And were those the only 3 projectiles that were recovered from Miriam Gaines' body by the medical examiner?
Yes.
I'll take those back. Ms. Norman, I'm now going to show you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 39. If you could open that item and take a look inside and let me know if you recognize that.
Yes.
Okay, and does that appear to be, well, I'm sorry, let me take a step back. Following the autopsy of Miriam Gaines, was an autopsy conducted almost immediately after of Robert Gaines?
Yes, they were done in one after the other.
Okay, and were you present for the entire autopsy of Robert Gaines?
Yes.
During his autopsy, how many projectiles, if any, were recovered from his body?
One.
And were you present for when that was recovered and then subsequently packaged?
Yes.
The item that you have before you, does that appear to be that same projectile as packaged by the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
In the same or substantially the same condition as it was when it was collected on that date?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time I'd ask to move into evidence, State's Exhibit 39.
Any objection? They'll be admitted.
If you could hold that package up for us, and if you could, tell us where was that recovered from in the body of Robert Gaines?
It is labeled as bullet from the soft tissue lateral to the left mandible.
Okay, from the head.
From the head. Yes.
After collecting these items of evidence and anything else you may have collected from the medical examiner's office, would you then return to the sheriff's office and put those items into evidence there?
Yes, ma'am.
And now I want to go backwards in time and start on August the 20th. Or I guess this would have been, was on the morning of August the 21st.
I was originally called about 10 a.m. on the 21st.
Okay, the morning of the 21st at 10 a.m. At that date and time, did you respond to the Fensbury drive home?
I did.
Okay. And when you arrived at the home on that day, were other law enforcement already present, the scene already taped off and secure?
Correct.
What was your role and what were you tasked with to do at the home on that date?
I was specifically requested to process the window in the southeast bedroom for fingerprints. All
right, Mr. Norman, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 21A through D. for identification. If you can take a look through those photographs and let me know if you recognize them.
Yes, I do.
Okay, do those appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the window in the southeast bedroom that you subsequently processed?
Yes.
Fair and right, as to move into evidence, State's Exhibit 21A through D.
Any objection?
No, sir.
They'll be admitted.
And ask for permission to publish.
You may vote.
All right, Ms. Norman, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 21A.
You're right.
Thank you. I had it right there. Do you recognize this to be the window at the southeast bedroom that you were asked to process?
Yes.
And 21B, another angle of that same window?
Yes.
When you were asked to process it, State's Exhibit 21C, was it open in the same manner that it is in these photographs?
Yes, it was.
What portion of this window did you process? And then State's 21D.
I processed the interior and exterior of each pane, the open pane and the closed pane.
And prior to that date, had you received training in how to process an item for fingerprints?
Yes.
And what method did you use to process the window panes that we just saw in 21A through D?
In this particular case, I used the traditional black powder method.
Okay. Do you have any role in later verifying to see if any prints were actually collected?
No.
All right, Ms. Norman, I'm now showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 33. If you could take a look at these, the envelope and the cards contained within, and let me know if you recognize them.
I did.
Okay. And what do these appear to be?
These are the print cards that I lifted on that date from that window.
Okay. The window that we just saw in State's Exhibit 21A through D.
Yes.
Okay. And are they in the same or substantially the same condition, absent some additional markings, as they were when you collected them on that date?
Yes.
Bernard asked to move into evidence, State's Exhibit 33.
No objection.
They will be admitted.
And ask for permission to publish.
You may vote.
All right, Ms. Norman, look at the back of the card first. The markings that we see on here, open bedroom window southeast, are these your markings that you put on this card after you collect the prints?
Yes.
And then on the front, are these the various prints that you would have attempted to collect?
Yes.
And are these markings that are made after the fact by someone other than yourself?
Correct.
Did you process any other items of evidence at the home?
No.
And did you collect any evidence at the home?
No.
All right, thank you, Ms. Norman. I'll pass the witness.
Cross-examination?
Just very briefly, Judge, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, that you lifted the prints from the glass pane inside and outside?
Yes.
Did you attempt to lift prints from anywhere else, either the opening, the handle opening?
The overall window itself, I'm saying panes just for ease of reference.
So you would have, whether it's wood or whatever, and as well as the crank, you would have tried to lift prints from all around, not just the glass pane.
Correct.
And what you were able to lift is what you just discussed with Ms. Derry, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
Redirect?
No redirect, Judge.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, sir.
and by the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Stephan, you may be excused as a witness at this time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is 3 o'clock, so we're going to take our afternoon break. We'll take a 15-minute break, and then when we come back, we'll go up to approximately 5 o'clock, maybe a few minutes before, a few minutes after today. So please do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Please do not do any research related to the case, and please do not be exposed to any reports outside of the courtroom related to the case. All rise for the jury. The jury has exited. Everyone may be seated. So, State, Mr. Chair, we have 2 hours when they come back. Do we?
Yeah, we're just talking about, we're just trying to figure out, we've
Well, but
got,
really, it's like an hour and 45 minutes, right? 'Cause don't you
Well,
have to leave
I,
after
no, I
5?
said I'd go. I can go to 5. I told them approximately 5. So I don't mind going to 5:15. If we come back at 3:15, I don't mind going 2 hours, which is 5:15.
okay. We have 3 witnesses out there. We're thinking they're probably about 20 minutes each. We're gonna go ahead and call it and get one more witness here. Hopefully we can get all four in before.
All right. If for some reason you can't get somebody here and we end up, I told them, more or less 5 o'clock.
Sorry, Judge?
I told them more or less 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if, it sounds like that we probably do need another one here to get.
I don't want to be done at.
Right, we don't wanna- I hear you.
We could get in another.
No, I agree.
witness.
I agree.
Just my only concern is one of those 3 witnesses is Greg Thomas, who is the lead scene detective.
He's a
and
little
Ms.
bit
Holt
longer,
has indicated her cross will be lengthy.
I think that would be, it would be lengthier than what you're watching on these
Right,
other ones. for sure.
right. So then we may be all right with the 3 that we have here, and we just finish whenever we're done with those 3.
Okay. All right, well, we'll talk about it, Judge.
All right.
We'll decide if we need to bring something else.